Titanic. 10 differences between the movie and the real story. Titanic is the most famous love story in the film industry. I know, it moved you to tears. Don't lie, you also cried when you watched it. But guess what? It's a huge lie. Many of your favorite moments never happened in real life. Find out which ones in this video. Number 1. An unknown ship. Once the movie starts, you can see a large crowd waving the passengers off as if they were witnessing a major event. But it actually wasn't that big of news before it sank. This is because its sister ship, the Olympic, stole the spotlight on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York in 1911. It had the same safety facilities, as well as the same number of lifeboats, and also the same captain. If it weren't for the iceberg, it could have been another ocean liner on another routine trip at the time. Number 2. Third-class passengers. It's true that third class wasn't welcomed back then, especially due to the noisy parties that upset the elite, but it's a false belief that they were held against their will. Actually, the gates were closed in compliance with the US immigration laws at the time. This is because it was believed that migrants could spread diseases on American land, so they had to be isolated upon arriving to Manhattan to undergo health controls. However, when it was clear that the Titanic was plunging to the bottom, all gates were opened regardless of social status. Number 3. William Murdoch was a good sailor. I don't blame you if you don't like this guy. After all, look what he did to Tommy in Titanic! That was very cruel of him, even though it never happened. What? That's right. In fact, William Murdoch was considered a hero of the shipwreck. The truth is, all the boats under his charge left the ship completely full. He then helped save as many lives as he could. But let's not blame James Cameron for this big lie, since he acknowledged that he wasn't thinking like a historian, but a filmmaker when making Titanic. Would you have done the same? Number 4. Picasso's painting wasn't in the ship. Obviously, an elite and sophisticated girl like Rose had lots of luggage to bring, and who could imagine that inside those suitcases was the Young Ladies of Avignon painting by Picasso himself. Like many girls who now have a poster of Taylor Swift hanging on the wall, Rose had this masterpiece hanging in her bedroom. However, there's no evidence that this painting was on board. Well, if it wasn't there, at least it didn't get lost at the bottom of the sea. Number 5. The captain didn't receive an iceberg warning. You knew it was coming, but I know you wished it didn't. The crash against the iceberg was unavoidable, even though, in the movie, Captain Smith was warned about icebergs on the way. But before you get mad at the captain, those warnings only came from James Cameron's imagination. As a matter of fact, Captain Smith never received any iceberg warning before or during the Titanic's voyage. However, he was actually warned about a mast of a sunken vessel that was blocking the way. So you shouldn't blame it all on the captain, who went down with the ship in real life. Number 6. The unsinkable ship. One of the phrases you've heard more than once on Titanic was this,
God himself could not sink.
And this one too.
The ship comes.
Until the architect of the vessel revealed the harsh truth, it wasn't impossible for the Titanic to sink. In fact, although it was called a prodigy of its kind, it was never depicted as unsinkable. What's more, the company owner of the ship, White Star Line, never gave a solid statement about it. Another white lie of Hollywood. Number 7. The Last Waltz. Another iconic moment of the film is when the musicians play a waltz as the ship plunges into the icy water. These musicians did indeed play together until the end.
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege playing with you tonight.
But the song of said legendary performance wasn't Nearer My God to Thee, but The Song of Autumn, a popular waltz back then which was part of the repertory of the White Star Line orchestras. Unfortunately, none of the musicians survived this tragedy. 8. Lifeboats without flashlights. I bet you were suspicious of this scene when you saw it. Find anything unusual? That's right, those are flashlights which, let me tell you, didn't exist in 1912. Of course, having them would have been very helpful when looking for survivors among the dark and cold water of the Arctic, but reality was harder than fiction. 9. A ship with no heart. I'm sure many girls would like to be painted like Rose while wearing this beautiful gem. But to their disappointment, the Heart of the Sea came from James Cameron's imagination. There's no official record of any gem of that size among the luggage of the high-class passengers. What would you do if it were in your hands? Okay, now the info you were waiting for. Number 10. Jack and Rose never existed. If you were one of those who imagined an alternative life where Rose and Jack lived happily ever after, something like the scene at the end of the film, then you aren't alone. But sadly, neither Jack nor Rose existed in real life. It's difficult to hold back the tears, but the standards of time would have made it impossible for a high and low-class individual to interact. Jack was more likely to be thrown overboard than welcomed to dine with wealthy families. Although most of the characters never existed in real life, this story will always remain in your heart. What was your favorite moment? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more interesting videos.